Welcome and blessings to the patriots and bodhisattvas of this beautiful country. We had a little bit of a hiatus the last 2 weeks due to technical difficulties, which has been no stranger to these channels, but we have overcome as we do. Very grateful to have you back, my friend. How are you, Sean?
Doing well. I was just talking to you about how I did 2 interviews last night with the same person, where I interviewed them, Josh Reed from Red Pill Podcast, and then he interviewed me. And we've got some really harsh realities to look at and acknowledge. And this is a time where we have to do the things that Josh talked about last night, which he talked about Madison's writings in the Federalist Papers, disquietude, which just means, getting up on your soapbox and sharing your thoughts and feelings with others. People are afraid to do that. People are afraid they're going to get labeled, they're going to get shunned, they're going to get judged, they're going to get targeted. And you know what? If we don't at least share how we feel about what's happening to us, our families, and our countries, we will lose it all. So we have to do that. And the next thing is civil disobedience. If you think it's unlawful, it's wrong, morally wrong to do something like wear a mask, to get a vaccination, to put a mask or a vaccination in your child, then you have to not comply. You just say no and don't do the things that they want you to do, which are wrong to do.
And maybe that's been the message all along. Maybe that's what's contributing to things prolonging as they are. Maybe we're just going along with things too much.
Oh yeah, the controllers are like less than 1% of the population. They don't have any armies. We are their armies. so they need us to kill each other for them to win. They need us to just go along with their program. If we say no, it's game over. It's very nice to see in Europe, in France, in Greece, in Italy, in these different places, people standing up, marching, not complying. It's happening in New York City. It's happening in Australia. The truckers are also boycotting in Australia and the United States. So things are happening, but it's a little bit slow here. People are kind of waiting until they knock on our doors and say, "Hey, I'm here to inject you," until they actually stand up for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I say it all the time. It's the the armchair quarterbacks, the people that are still on the couch, and they may be watching you and I in this moment and bitching about it. But we got to go a little bit further than that. And my gosh, God bless the truckers. I watched a couple of private personal videos from just a bit that have been posted from some of the truckers that have had enough and that are standing up, and that they are essentially hoping to be the symbol of what comes first, that kind of encourages other people to just do just that. Just say no, enough is enough, wherever that needs to be, wherever you have to go to make that happen, even if it's just enough's enough. You can't put a face diaper on my child when I send him to school. When I send my child to school, I expect them to be able to breathe fresh air all day long. I do not comply. Okay.
Yeah.
Just refusing.
They're putting a bunch of toxic stuff in our child's minds too. Let's not forget that. The perversion, the sex education, the lack of moral and character development, the lack of financial and legal knowledge that they're giving us, so the people will just be sheep. The so-called racist training, which actually teaches kids to be racist and sexist and to hate our country. I mean, it gets to the point where you're just like, wait a minute, we want the kids to be in school? Like, why do we even want them there at this point? I mean, maybe we should send them to private school, send them to spiritual school, homeschool them, find an alternative, because, I don't trust it.
I don't either, not for a second. This is one of those conflicting messages. I've been getting these pings of just conflicting messages that I feel from Trump, and who's been such a fighter, such an advocate to get the kids back in school, and that's the last place that I want my child. And we've talked a lot on this channel about just trying to bring awareness, trying to bring support to people to be able to homeschool. And so, having a group of people come around that are able to contribute, that are able to help, that that do qualify to teach different, different subjects, different modalities, things like that, that we can come together and kind of like assist families that are trying to go the homeschool route, because I'm encouraging people, like, I believe this is the way to go. Like, we have to break free any way that we can from any of the mainstream systems, for a lot of us, it starts with the job, the employment, and I can talk about this a little bit. We pull ourselves away from the employment race, and then we come and we find alternative ways to go about things. Like the way that you have blossomed and grown into your own, your own, basically, your brand and everything that you do over the last couple years, and what I'm in the middle of experiencing right now. Just pulling away from that system in any way, shape, or form that we can, and just trying to stand our own 2 feet, and just to get that, almost like a grassroots operation moving forward. Regardless of if we're the one that come first, what do the fullbacks do? They take all the hits and make things easier for other people to walk through it. It's not an easy path, but it is the path of patriots that stand up and do something.
Absolutely. It's like we got to unplug from the matrix. It's like those people who were using cable for all those years, and then they realize, you know what? This TV and this programming is like poisoning me and my family. I'm just going to stop paying for cable, unplug the TV, and we'll just do other things for entertainment. And there's a whole movement of like millions of us worldwide who just unplugged from the TV programming. And we got to do the same thing with this educational programming. We got to do the same thing. Stop sucking at the teat of corporate America and be independent business people once again. 200 years ago, the average American family only had 2 books, the Bible and Robinson Crusoe, and they had a higher IQ, and they could speak better and write better than people can now. And so, check out the new website that's in my description here, sundayscriptures.org. Because this is a partnership I have with a spiritual mentor of mine. His name is Barry Dermaz. He has 5 kids. He homeschools all of them. He uses a curriculum called American Christian Education. It's from FACE is the acronym, Foundation for American Christian Education. And this is a curriculum anyone can use. I mean, they've got homeschooling groups on Gab and Facebook, and parents can get together and they can raise up their kids knowing about the founding of our country, knowing our history, involving spirituality in the educational process. And that's what I want for my son. Luckily, they have like a whole bunch of schools like that right here in Brazil. The Foundation for American Christian Education had a person who brought that curriculum to Brazil. So it's actually a possibility for my son to go to a private school and learn all the same stuff here.
That's a perfect example. That's absolutely fantastic, Sean. And I didn't know that existed. I caught your first podcast with the Sunday Scriptures, and I'm happy to see that you're doing that. Thank you. I love everything about it. Like I just talked about, how within this channel, we've had conversations about people that want to contribute and assist those that want to move forward with homeschooling, but don't really know how to do it, or don't consider themselves teachers in that right. And so, am I correct in understanding that? And I'm sorry, can you repeat his name again from the Sunday Scriptures?
Yeah. Barry Dermaz. I mean, they've got these Facebook groups where people can help each other teach each other's kids. They have both private schools and they have homeschooling groups using this curriculum.
And this is a curriculum that parents can follow that aren't necessarily confident in their own teaching abilities and whatnot.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. We have to get this this and more things like this out there, just available for parents and people that are struggling. And this is something that I'm passionate about. I have it, as I've shared with Sean before we came on. I have young nephews that are just going back to school this week, and we're faced with all the same trepidation that, just imagine anyone handing over their child to something that we just don't know how we're going to receive them back, and that's a scary thought. And so, I talk about this a lot to pretty much anybody that is willing to listen for a little while. And the first pushback that we always get is, I'd love to homeschool if I can. Pretty much the main purpose that school serves is a place to send and watch our child throughout the day so that parents can work. So I'll go back to that original piece of just we got to develop a long-term plan to pull away from the matrix so that parents are not away from
Right.
the family all day long. You know,
Yeah.
that divide and conquer in the original state, you know, get the father out of the house. That was the first piece, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. You're hitting on what I wanted to say, which is that you know, in the 1950s and before that, I mean, our currency actually had value, and one parent, you know, principally the father, would work, and it would be enough money for, you know, having a wife, supporting a wife and several children, and owning a home, and all of these things that seem so far away from the millennial generation being able to even afford with two full-time working parents, and you know, I'm just thinking about, because my son's only 2 years old, so I'm thinking about when he's old enough to be in school or to be educated. You know, what does that look like for him to be an apprentice of me and learn everything that I know and work side by side with me, just the way people used to do before primary education? And I know, you know, I went to college and I went to, you know, master's degree and all that stuff, so I know that if I teach my son what I know, by the time he's 18 years old, he's going to be ready for college, you know, and I'm certainly going to use other people, other resources. Maybe he'll go to a private school. I don't know yet, but I just, I like that idea of him learning from me, and we focusing on his character development. That's what's different about this link I just sent you, face.net. This is the Foundation for American Christian Education for people who are interested in developing their child's character and conscience. So, when is that even talked about in public education? I mean, they just say be nice to each other, and they call that the end of character development. So, you know, that's, in the end of the day, I mean, that's what you really want your kids to do. And people wonder why their kids on drugs, right? You're sending your kids to school where they got drug dealers there, right? We all went to school. I remember the drug dealers. I remember trying marijuana when I was 12 freaking years old because of the influences that were all around me, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're sending our kids into the lion's den.
Yeah. It's horrifying, Sean, and you know, coming from personal experiences in the crazy road that has shaped me and brought me to here, and I think back to the experiences that I had as a small child that was just given over to the public school systems in a not safe environment of an inner city. And you know, I've shared quite candidly with people those inner schools and experiences. They tore up a young version of me, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
they make us. They harden us. They make us into bullies because it becomes a peer approval environment where the only thing we care about when we're kids is what the other kids think of us. That's the worst thing for character development because you've got teenagers creating the norms, right?
Yeah.
So I would rather have my child in a spiritual environment where there's at least some kind of standard, moral standard that's above what a teenager is going to create by themselves, or in my own home where I can guide the character development.
I couldn't agree more. And you know, you talk about guiding, you know, your child's spiritual development, and again, this goes back to embracing that this isn't the pushing of any type of religion or any spirituality on anyone. This comes with our awakening, with our understanding, and that the spiritual part is every bit a part of ourselves as the physical part, as is the mental part. And when it comes to, you know, cultivating a young child and preparing them and mentoring them, and you know, this is something that we know something about. You know, as a male in my 40s, I have 30 plus years mentoring experience in this world, particularly young, affected, underprivileged, and abused children. And so I've been an advocate for as long as I can remember, telling people that the first things that children need to learn in this world, first and foremost, is how to meditate and how to breathe and how to eat and how to heal, physical, internal, mental, spiritual, how to grow things outside, how to communicate. Okay. This is spiritual development. This is personal, interpersonal and communication development and leadership skills. When we grow into our own and spend the first several years of our lives experiencing just Earth, just ourselves, just our growth, just each other. And then when we're ready, when children are ready and they want to explore, deeper things, science, mathematics, whatever it is they draw interest in, support that fully 1000%. But the reason that no child or very few children have focus or awareness longer than just a few seconds at a time, and the reason that why a child can't spend more than a few moments alone with their own mind and things like this, because these things aren't developed at a young natural age. They're just forced stimuli upon stimuli upon stimuli. I didn't even know that, and I did a show about this 2 days ago, Sean. I didn't even know that technological addiction was a thing until about 10 years ago, and when I was in the wilderness therapy field, and I'm working with children that were so badly damaged from technological addiction that they had to get out of the societal world and spend 6 months in the wilderness completely detached to heal, to restructure themselves.
It's unbelievable how aggressive the integration between technology and humanity has been. When I was, when I was a kid, I'm 36. When I was a kid, we didn't have cell phones. we didn't have smartphones. That's a different reality. Now, like I have a 2-year-old, we have to really try to limit his watching educational cartoons. Like we don't give him an iPad or anything, but a lot of parents are giving their young infants and children these iPads and stuff. They're getting addicted to them. And of course, young people with smartphones, we need to learn balance. It is so important. We can't ignore that aspect of the addiction, because what do you think our young people are consuming on those phones? Like, that's why a parent needs to be even more involved than they used to be involved, because we need to be there to help our children make choices, conscious choices. You call this show mindful consumption. That's what kids need. They need to be guided on how to be mindful about what they're bringing in, because remember when we were young and people listened to Eminem, and he was writing raps and sharing raps about murdering his mother and stuff. That's what teenagers, even when we were kids, were listening to, and it's probably getting worse now. So we gotta be there to be the most important person in our child's life, so that they care about our approval, not their friends' approval who are teenagers and don't have any moral development yet. They need to care about our approval, and they're only going to care if they're side by side with us more time than after you're done, punching the clock. So I really think we need to spend more time with our kids.
100%, brother. Spending that time, that's absolutely crucial. And but there's also that piece of how we are spending that time. Are we walking that mindful path? Are we walking the bodhisattva path? Are we role modeling in all times what needs to be taught? And this is a challenge for us. This is a challenge for even the mightiest and the most committed adult to always, role model what we're trying to create in this world. Like however you want to put it, the change you want to see in this world. Spending time with young children, like this is a precious moment, because even if we think we're not teaching in this moment, children absorb like crazy, and they learn from our routines, and they learn how we respond to things, how we react to things. And we can lose credibility with children without knowing that, particularly when they're young, and they see how we respond to so many things in this world, particularly the things that they do. We have to be gentle and compassionate and embrace teachable moments. Anytime that we can stop a child in their tracks, and I mean in the tracks of their development, and just connect one-on-one, and I mean a conscious conversation. I didn't even know what a conscious conversation was until I was deep into my 30s. But had I had conscious conversations with parents, with mentors, with adult figures that would help to clear things up for me, and I didn't have to spend the first 20 plus years of my life in just utter confusion, man, I can't even imagine how things would be so
Kevin, much. Parents are abdicating their responsibility, and they're delegating it to the government and saying, okay, you teach my kid about sex. You teach my kid about spirituality. You teach my kid about finances. You teach my kid about the law. Like, you know, it's I just send a link to you that you can share with our audience. It's a movie I just saw this past weekend with my wife, and it's about a family that's has good intentions. They're good people. They go to church. They're spiritual. They've got 4 kids, and they're so busy trying to take care of 4 kids and trying to make money and trying to just survive that they end up kind of neglecting their kids, but just from being busy. And so their kids start, drifting away. And it's amazing. It's amazing how the one child, like the parents made a decision, you know what, we're going to make God the center of our lives now in our family every single day. That's the choice we're making right now. But they made that choice after one of the kids already grew up and went to college. So the one kid that went to college without any of that type of upbringing, he was kind of suffered and wandered like a prodigal son his whole life. Whereas the other 3 kids, they benefited from the increased attention and the love from their decisions. So it's an amazing movie for families to watch and really think about, their decisions with how they spend their time and where they spend their focus.
That's awesome. Yeah, here's a glimpse of what the cover and the trailer looks like. I appreciate you sharing that, Sean. I definitely look forward to checking this out. I will watch this movie and share a review maybe in the morning show one of the next 2 days as well for anybody that's interested.
Yeah, that's a cool one. If you end up, I don't know what your career plans are, but if you end up working with youth and families and social work setting, that's a good one that we would have, back when I worked at Diacon, we would have showed that movie to kids.
Awesome. When I was with that same organization, I was typically in the middle of the wilderness, so we didn't watch a lot of movies.
Right.
But we did get some classroom time too. But yeah, I appreciate you bringing that to our awareness, Sean. We're going to check that out for sure.
Yeah, so people are always expecting to hear about politics from me, but this is relevant to what we're going through as a. It's like the mass consciousness is going through these decisions about their own sovereignty, about their own families, about their own body, about their own choices and everything. And so we got to just talk about this stuff because it's on everybody's mind. Kids are going back to school, right?
And like I shared with you before we went live, that is paramount. What's on my mind? It's sending the young kids back to school. It's my little nephews going back, and I don't know, what's going on, what's being told to them while they're there, and I'm following everything I can about Fauci and what's going to be happening next and how he wants to have the mandates in the schools ultimately. And he talks about how this is nothing new. We've had different mandates, different jab mandates for different things throughout time, and then this is just to get the start of the kids. I think it's like 12 to 17, and then very, very soon it's going to be all age children, all age staff. And if you look at what they're trying to put together, if you keep connecting these dots as we move deeper into fall and deeper into the upcoming winter, things are going to have to come to a head, because we're seeing more and more places and people just talk about mandates, and there's such an enormous population of us that just will not have it. And so we have to have something coming to a head. And I know we talk all the time about, things progressing, and then, we move through times where we expect something to happen. And, just for example, there's a lot of hype about hot August, but this is the last day of August. It's leaving us. And so we still have to stay on this train. And what you're saying is absolutely right, because Sean, nothing that we do, and I know you bring a lot of political news and a lot of relevance in terms of the things that are going down in the mainstream world, and particularly behind the scenes that a lot of people can't see or find. But this is all under the umbrella of the Great Awakening. It's all what everybody needs to know. what's happening politically is one thing, but as far as I'm concerned, what's happening in the school, that's a ramification of what's happening politically, and they're all ramifications of what's happening spiritually amongst this great awakening, this moment in our time. So I take and I teach a holistic approach to everything. That's what Engaged Reiki is about. That's why you have a spiritual teacher on here, connecting with Sean Morgan weekly. You may think things don't add up, but it's all holistic. It's holistic wellness. It's holistic approach. It's holistic spirituality. We have to be mindful of everything that we bring into ourselves, everything that we consume.
Yeah, I'm with you that the jabs, the clot shots, whatever you want to call them, this is at the core of the deep state's anti-humanity depopulation agenda, and what they want, and they've made it very clear. I mean, there's no secrets about it. They want to do regular booster shots forever. That's what they want to just keep on injecting us over and over and over again, get us dependent on these things. These things manipulate our DNA, and just look at Australia. Look what's happening there. That's a population that's already been disarmed. Okay, so they're at the mercy of the government. The government's using advanced military equipment against them, like helicopters and loudspeakers, telling people, get back in your home, separate from your neighbors, do not watch sunsets. Like, so literally, do not go outside your house, do not watch a sunset, do not breathe fresh air. You're only allowed to exercise this amount of time per day. Okay, that's what's happening right now in Australia. Australia is a first world country, supposedly, not a fascist country. So that's what they want to roll out in the US of A. It's not going to be easy, right? Because we're armed. We're not going to just let people push us around like that. We have a lot more of an independent spirit, but that's what they want to do. So that's where there's going to be a showdown, like you said, Kevin. It's all going to come to a head because that's what they're going to try to do to Americans, and we're not going to take it. And I think, personally, I believe the military's going to do most of the fighting for us, so the civilians don't have to get involved. It's definitely coming to a head.
What can we learn from what's coming to a head in Australia? As we look at there are differences. First and foremost, the people are standing up right now. They're already in the streets. We talked about what's going on with the truckers. I've seen videos and clips and people talking about being hit with rubber bullets like crazy, like large crowds and things like that. So I think it's more than just loudspeakers, but they are like that's an example of coming to a head right now. So what do you think we can expect to see throughout Australia over the next couple of weeks? And how do you think that's going to affect what people do ultimately here?
Yeah, this could actually determine everything, because this is like a beta test by the deep state to see how far they can push humanity. And if they can't get away with it in Australia, there's no way they're going to try to get away with it in the USA, right? They're only going to push us as far as we accept it. So that's the way I view it. If they're successful in Australia, they'll try to roll it out in the USA. So
be very particular about what we're able to see as far as what's happening in Australia, right? So they're going to want to manipulate that. So again, this comes back to mindfulness regarding how we're going to know the truth in regards to what we see in Australia.
I have an Australian person named Peter who writes to me every single day, and he tells me exactly what's happening in Australia, and it's amazing to have that kind of a connection with someone across the world. And he supports my channel, so I want to say a big thanks to Peter. But yeah, so luckily we have the internet. That's why the internet's so dangerous for the deep state. That's why it's definitely in their plans to shut down communication. They're starting now with people like me, people who are really outspoken, target them, deplatform them, create this whole idea of disinformation being a crime, and then start to target anyone who mentions anything against the deep state agenda. But then eventually it'll get to the point where they're just like shutting down whole websites, whole email platforms, and possibly just trying to shut down the internet or even electricity. Yeah, I mean, it depends on how far along the war we are.
Yeah. let me jump in on that and give you a great big thank you to Peter for keeping the intel coming, and to everybody watching and listening. That's just that's just some of the power that Sean brings. These are, you know, the sources, you know, that come and contribute. This is how, I don't want to just say Americans, but everybody standing up, everybody rising, the patriots, whether you're an American patriot, an Australian patriot, we're all inner beings, we're all humans. This is how you contribute. We have people funneling information to Sean, which is phenomenal. That's why we love you so much, and you're such a valued and trusted patriot and American, you know, just supporter and reporter. And you know, the other piece that I wanted to touch on there briefly is kind of an experience that I've had recently, and this is, you know, in my personal employment search. So over the course of this last, let's say, about a week, I was in communication with a woman from a place that I was going to start working from home, and we've had some really excellent conversations and a really nice video demo. And she asked about social media, and of course I don't have any, you know, and that's obviously what I'm going to put out there. And then she found my YouTube channel, and she stopped talking to me.
Right. Hey, so, man,
that's the reality of where we are.
Jesus called the herd. You know, when Jesus started going really deep on things and started saying really deep spiritual truths that people didn't understand, like you have to eat of my flesh and drink my blood. When he said things that were that like shocking to people who think naturally instead of spiritually, like most of the crowd just went away. And to us right now, people who are like, we're trying to build an audience, like we want more people, but you know, that's not spiritual. Like sure, it can happen. It can happen that you have big crowds, but you don't need everyone. You know, you need the God divinely inspired fellowship, and those people are rare. They're not normal. They're not common. They're not plentiful. So, you know, when I first started my channel, 2 million views, 60,000 subscribers, all this stuff. But now I have these hardcore, I have basically like 300 to 400 people who donate to my channel. They are everything to me, you know, like 300 or 400 people. This is not like, we're not talking about big crowds here. You know, the crowd has been called, and there are just the few, the chosen, and that's all it takes. Those people have gotten me through the last year. They have supported me, my wife, my child, my family, my mission, my ministry. Just those people. It doesn't take a lot. So you're going to find the right connection, Kevin. We're going to pray for you. You know, you're going to connect with a patriot. You're going to connect with a spirit brother, sister, and it's going to be the right connection, because you don't want to have fellowship with someone who doesn't have the same values.
I said 100% right there. It's you know, I always call it synchronicity. I'm synchronistically led, and I know that, you know, the right people that cross your path, they do so, and they propel you forward. You know, that's your backbone. That's the exact group of people that you described there, brother. Like out of the, you know, 60-some thousand followers, it's that, like, that's great, you know. But you know, however, even on my main channel with, you know, 500 subscribers, there's never been anything that I put out that everyone has looked at, or everyone has liked, or everybody has sent some support behind. You know what I mean? It's always the small core that really feel you, that really see you, that are really going to be with you and support you through the storm. And that's so important. And any of us that can be, you know, that part of somebody's core, that's a powerful contribution right there. You know, when we find someone that's doing good things, anyone can only do so much. We all need to uplift each other. We all need to support each other, you know. So I say it all the time, you know, if you feel what I'm doing here, what I'm bringing here, I can't do it without support. Sean puts a heck of a service out, you know, to our country amongst our patriots. Can't do it without our support. You heard it here. This is how we rally. This is how we change and affect things. You know, we're talking about whatever it is, if it's struggling parents that want to learn about moving into homeschooling, they can't do it without support. You know, the children, we know they need our support. Whatever we can do. It's about community. It's about patriots. It's about people that want to save the freaking world, stand up and find some way to do so. You know, you send so more than $17. That's a good contribution to saving the country.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you know, look what Andrew Torba's doing on Gab.com. I mean, this guy,
Good example.
he's had so many offers to sell out. I mean, there are plenty times he could have been minted a millionaire if he would have just sold out. But he decided, you know what? I'm sticking with this whole idea of this is a free speech platform. I'm not going to compromise on those ideals. Now he's releasing a no vaccination job board on Gab, you know, so people can actually connect with each other patriots, hire each other for jobs without requiring vaccination. You know, Gab's an amazing place. It has its ugliness, just like any other social media platform. You know, you choose your friends, you choose what you consume, but there is so much fellowship to be had there and other places. You know, I'm publishing my podcast on every place I can. I'm publishing my videos on YouTube, on Rumble, you know, on Gab. So there's these different, but the most powerful community is Gab, followed by Telegram right now for me.
Yep, I agree with everything you said there. Those are the two platforms that you will find me on as well. And Gab's somewhere that I take comfort in. Like you said, it's kind of community based, so you only see things from people that you want to see things from for the most part. And it's helped me to find a lot of the people that disappeared over the course of the last year, you know, and to kind of stay connected that way.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dom Lynch. You know, talk about core supporter, right? I mean, this guy's always got something positive to say when he attends. So, I mean, what would we do without the Dom Lynches? Like, we wouldn't even bother doing this. We would just think to ourselves, well, I guess no one really cares, you know? So, like, he is just as important as we are, you know, doing this type of work.
You're 100%, Sean. What you're seeing right now, the people right here that have showed up chatting, the Michael, the Dom, the Gabrielle, the Deborah. This is that core that me up, that keeps me moving, that keeps engaged Reiki engaging and solid and you know, up on our platform. So and they know how much love I have for them. And
Absolutely.
But and you guys, it's all a perfect example. You know, whatever we do, you show up. You know, you, Dom, Deborah, Debbie, Michael, you all show up for me. We all show up for Sean anytime we can, and it's kind of that thing. And all Sean and I are trying to do is show up for the country and show up for the world, show up for our children. Just whatever we can do, you know.
Absolutely. And I do want to mention the whole 80-20 rule. This is just a universal law, you know, they call it Pareto's law, where it's just everything ends up being broken down into at least 80-20. You know, usually like if there's a corporation, then, and they have lots of different departments, then 20% of the departments will make 80% of the profits. That's just one example of the 80-20 rule. But we're seeing that 80-20 rule right now with the public consciousness with the clot shots. You know, where 80% of the people are kind of going along with the program and 20% are not. You know, and so if you're part of that 20%, you're part of that awakened change agent consciousness. So it might feel lonely, but it's always been the 20% or less that has transformed societies. Look at the founding fathers. They were working with their 80-20 principle back then too, and they still beat the world's most powerful military empire. So we can do it today. You know, we just have to have faith. And to me, it's about making the spiritual and moral choices, you know, that we know are the right thing to do. And so if you just follow that, then you're going to be okay. You're going to be protected. You're going to be happy with your legacy. You're going to be proud. I mean, the worst thing in my mind is the idea, like in Nazi Germany, those 80% of the people or more that just went along and just said, go ahead, you can collect my Jewish neighbors, you can put them on the train, you can take them away. I'm not going to say anything, I'm not going to do anything, I'm not going to protect them. Of course, it wasn't even just Jewish people who were massacred. It was Black people, gay people, disabled people, it was gypsies. It was all kinds of different groups that the Nazis didn't like. And 80% of the entire population of Germany or more just said nothing and did nothing. And so we're at that kind of moment now as a society. And so it might feel lonely to be part of the 20%, but it's always been like that. Awakened consciousness has always been in that kind of percentage. So we just got to stick together with the fellowship with the other 20%ers.
20%ers. We're together always like glue. That's been such a trigger for me my whole life, Sean. And I bet you anything that stems back to a past life when I was given over by the the apathetic crowd or the mindless crowd. But it's those that just do nothing while like you said, the others are taken away. That's worse than the soldiers that are doing the taking. It's
just as bad. It's complicit. You're complicit in the crime.
Yeah. And so what changes that is awareness, is mindfulness. When the more that you can be aware of, the less you're likely to contribute to something just out of ignorance. Mindfulness is the complete opposite of ignorance. And so if we can just raise enough awareness to more things, then maybe we can help to defeat some of the ignorance. But things only change when the numbers change, when a large amount of people in this country and in this world like truly wake up to the truth that we're out here emphatically trying to show. When enough people stand, it's game over.
Absolutely. It takes courage. And President Trump talks about this so many times, how rare courage is. People are so afraid right now that they're going to lose their reputation, their approval, and all of these things. But this is moral. This is spiritual. You have to stand up for what is right. For you, for your child, for your family, for your community, for your country. Now's the time. So you got to get right with God. I'm sorry, Kevin, I got to go. I've got my next recording now, but I really encourage everyone to go to SeanMorganReport.com, get the newsletter. You're going to get all the updates on the Sunday Scriptures show as well.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Any special guests on today at 5:30, Sean?
Well, I'm pre-recording because we're having issues with our production, so we're not doing it live for the next 2 weeks. But if you just sign up at SeanMorganReport.com, you'll get a recording delivered to your inbox.
Awesome. We'll absolutely do that. Make sure to do that, everybody. Thank you for being with us again, Sean. I appreciate you making it back, brother, and solving those internet problems. Great conversation today. Thank
Amen. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.